If you're looking out at your garden right now in August, chances are it's starting to look a little tired. I get it. The tomatoes and peppers might still be hanging on, but the leaves are yellowing, those early summer crops are long gone, and you might be feeling that familiar, slightly frustrating sense that the season is just winding down. You've probably put a ton of work in this year, and honestly, you might be tempted to just clear the beds and call it a year.
But before you pull up those plants, just hear me out for a second. If you think your growing season is over, you're actually missing out on something pretty remarkable. Right behind those producing summer crops, a quiet second growing season is opening up. It's honestly one of the most important and productive planting windows of the entire year. But here's the catch. It closes incredibly fast.
So in this explainer, we're going to cover exactly what this second growing season is, the tightest planting windows we have right now, the crops that actually crave the cold, some fast safety nets, how to calculate your actual frost deadline, and finally, how to plan out your fall harvest.
Let's start with part 1, the second growing season. Now, before I just hand you a list of seeds to buy, it's absolutely crucial to understand exactly why late summer planting works. Getting this underlying logic is what's going to make you a successful fall gardener. Think about your spring garden. You put cool season crops in the ground, right? But they're constantly fighting an uphill battle against warming temperatures and lengthening days, which eventually forces them to turn bitter and bolt. Well, the second season offers the exact opposite. We're heading into cooling temperatures and shortening days. Cool season vegetables absolutely thrive in this environment, but you have to get them into the ground in the next few weeks. If you miss this exact window, those garden beds are just going to sit empty until next May.
Which brings us to part 2, the tightest planting windows. Knowing that the clock is ticking, let's look at the crops with the absolute tightest runway. These are the vegetables that simply cannot wait for next weekend. They need to go into the ground immediately. Bush beans are at the very top of that list. They take roughly 50 to 60 days to reach harvest, but more importantly, they require warm soil to germinate properly. This means right now is genuinely your last realistic call for a second bean crop, before those cooler fall nights slow their germination to a dead halt.
If you want that second flush of beans right as your spring planting winds down, here is exactly what you need to do. Direct sow the seeds exactly 1 inch deep. Not a half inch, not an inch and a half, exactly 1 inch. Then, keep the soil consistently moist until germination. If you do this today, you'll have a full harvest just in time. Broccoli and cabbage follow a very similar timing logic. Pushing these through summer heat usually ruins them, but a fall crop finishes its growth in cool weather, and that produces tighter, much sweeter heads. If you're starting from seed, get them in within the next week or two. Or, if you want some breathing room, just grab transplants from a local garden center. And a quick word of warning here. Consistent moisture is absolutely critical. Irregular watering is the single most common reason cabbage heads split right before you're ready to pick them.
Okay, part 3, crops that actually crave the cold.
This is honestly my favorite category. These are crops that don't just tolerate a frost, they actually require falling temperatures to reach their absolute peak flavor. Carrots need 70 to 80 days, meaning if you plant them now, you'll harvest right around the first light frost. Beets are incredibly forgiving at 50 to 60 days. Kale can be harvested well past the first frost. And spinach, the stuff that stubbornly refuses to grow in hot summer soil, it'll thrive right now as the heat eases.
You might have noticed a theme here about these fall crops tasting better. This is due to a fascinating natural process called cold sweetening. When temperatures drop, the cold triggers the plant to defend its cells by converting starches into sugars. It acts almost like an organic antifreeze. This is the underlying science of why fall carrots and kale taste noticeably, remarkably sweeter than anything you could ever harvest in the July heat.
But to get that sweet harvest, you have to be precise right now. For carrots, keep the top inch of soil consistently damp. Carrot seed is notoriously fussy about drying out. For beets, sow them exactly ½ inch deep, and you must thin them out once they're 2 inches tall so the roots actually have room to bulk up. Spinach and lettuce should go in now as the days shorten to prevent that bitter summer bolting. Treat these depths and moisture rules with absolute precision, and they really won't let you down.
Moving on to part 4, the fast safety nets.
If you're finding this explainer a bit late in the month, don't worry. You have safety nets. These are the quickest and most resilient crops you can grow. Swiss chard is wonderfully cold hardy, surviving frosts that kill off tender greens and offering a great cut-and-come-again harvest. Green onions are also perfect for just filling in those small gaps left behind by your pulled tomatoes. 3 to 4 weeks, that's all it takes for some varieties of radishes to be ready for your table. If you're watching this and feeling like you've completely missed the boat for a fall garden, radishes are without a doubt your absolute safest bet.
I also want to remind practical gardeners not to overlook crops like turnips and beets. These are incredibly productive, double-duty crops. You get edible greens early on for salads, and then the storable roots later. They're vastly underplanted relative to exactly how much food they provide from just a single seed.
Part 5. Your actual frost deadline.
Now let's hit the brakes for a moment. Everything we've talked about so far only works if you understand one very specific caveat. The calendar date is not your real deadline. Here is the essential math you have to do. You must look at today's date, add the exact days to maturity listed on your seed packet, and ensure that entire window fits completely inside the time before your region's first expected fall frost. A fast crop like radishes gives you flexibility. A slower crop like broccoli does not. If you miss that window by even 2 weeks, you'll just be staring at an unfinished, inedible plant when the deep cold sets in.
Because this is so critical, I want you to stop and look up your specific region's first fall frost date before you plant a single seed. Seriously, take a moment right now, open a new tab, and search for it. I'll wait a second. Okay, you have it? That single piece of data is what turns this from a general guide into a precise, foolproof plan for your own yard. Finally, Part 6, planning your fall harvest.
We've covered the science, the timing, and the exact crops. Now, let's bring it all together. To quote a common gardening truth, August feels like the tail end of the growing season, but for a real fall garden, it's actually the starting line. I know you might be tired from the summer heat, but you now have the exact knowledge required to pull a genuine second harvest, right while everyone else's yard just sits empty and brown.
Here's my best advice so you don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to plant all 12 crops we discussed. Just pick 2 or 3 that comfortably fit the space you already have available. Get those seeds in the ground this week, follow the exact depth and moisture rules we talked about, and you will be enjoying a genuine second harvest.
Once you taste a frost-sweetened carrot pulled from your own yard in November, you'll never look at a grocery store vegetable the same way again. It completely rewrites what you thought a garden could do. So let me know in the comments below, which of these 2 or 3 crops are you going to plant this week? Or is there a favorite fall crop you swear by that didn't make this list? I read every single one of those comments. If you found this straightforward and helpful, go ahead and subscribe for more timely, practical gardening guides, and I will see you in the next one.